Sharte, is it possible for you to get your camera turned where you look like you're sitting up straight and we can see you? It looks like you're on your side. There you go. Okay, and then unmute your device. Okay, unmute your device, Mrs. Sharte. By either swiping your screen or hitting *6, that should do the trick. Hang up and call your attorney and he can put you on speaker. Hang up and call your attorney and he can put you on speaker, Mrs. Sharte.
I can hear you. I have her on speaker, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Sharte, I'm going to ask your attorney to mute his device and explain to you what is the Fifth Amendment privilege and how you can invoke it and the complications that follow invoking the Fifth Amendment.
Yeah, hold on a second. Judge is talking. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I just let her in and then she dropped off again.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Do you have anyone else you want to call while we're waiting on her?
I do not. I do not.
Okay. Okay, Mrs. Sharte?
Yeah.
Mrs. Sharte, speak so I can hear you. Say your name, Mrs. Sharte.
Hi, Mercy Sharte. And I'm
Wonderful. Okay. Okay. Now listen carefully to the questions that you're going to be asked. Don't answer anything that you don't know the answer to. Just say, I don't know. But if someone asks you a question about committing a crime, you can plead the Fifth. Did Mr. Poplinski explain to you what the Fifth Amendment is?
Yes, ma'am.
And that if you plead the Fifth, that I can infer the negative from your pleading the Fifth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. You may proceed, Mr. Poplinski.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Charte, I need to start by giving the court an explanation for how the children ended up testing positive on 4/4 on their hair follicle test. What is your explanation of that?
When I separated from David, I had to get like 4 jobs to try to keep my house, the one that we previously lived in, me and David. And so it was during COVID too, and I was getting random jobs trying to keep the house. And so I had built fences when I was in college just to make money, and I knew how to do that. And there were people next door working on a house, and I asked that guy if I got the jobs, would he build fences with me to make money? And he did. And so we started building fences together just to make money to keep my home. And he I came to find out he was smoking that stuff.
Okay. And how do you suspect he got in contact with the children? There has to be some
he ended up, yeah, when I got gifted a home at the lake by Kendra Ray. And I was gifted a home because she was my old landlord, and then she just helped me out after my separation because she saw what I was going through. Anyways, his name's Reuben. He ended up staying at the house with us because we'd work late and stuff like that. And he didn't have a car, so he would end up staying at the house and stuff like that with us.
Okay.
And we got into a relationship.
Okay. So as a result of these drug tests, the Department of Illinois took custody of your child or your children. The judge signed an order giving them custody, and the CPS legal case began immediately after these drug tests. So the first thing I want to talk to you is Lennox's medical condition about the time that the kids were removed. Now, you've heard the testimony of Ms. Whiteley. Were you addressing Lennox's medical issues when these kids came into care?
What happened? Hello?
You're there.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. My phone just popped up with something. Yes, I was. I heard the question. Me and Lennox, since actually my previous case, Lennox was always my first priority. She was in ECI when she was younger, until she was 3. They would come to my home twice a week, every week. ECI.
Non-responsive?
Sustained. Listen to the question Mr. Poplinsky asked you. And Mr. Poplinsky, don't draw a great big picture.
I'll tighten it up.
Okay, I can break that down. I had been taking care of her medical history. I let Leslie know the day after Leslie texted me. I texted her back with my daughter's information, her doctor, the specialist, and they were supposed to do a Crohn's test on her. As another specialist in San Antonio, the Children's Hospital. I've been talking to doctors all the time about Lennox's health. It's the first concern of mine. And I requested Leslie, please, to only go to the specialist so they would not have to go backwards and Lennox would not have to suffer. And she never talked to the doctor. And then the whole month that I wasn't responding to her, there's a text message.
Sustained. Miss
Understood.
Desharte, wait for a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Churchill, this is only going to work. I mean, if we
Okay.
listen, take your time, take a breath, listen to the question, answer as directly as you can. Okay. Miss Whiteley testified that Lennox hadn't seen a gastroenterologist since May of 20. That was 2 years before this case, before the kids were taken. Is that a true statement?
That is a true statement.
Okay, just wait for the next question. Did you take Lennox to any other doctors during that last year before she was removed?
Lennox, well, she might have to go to the doctor for something else, but not for the gastro, because that's the specialist that you have to see. And it takes up to, number one, it takes for all of her bowel movements have shifted into her colon. So her intestines are weak. They have no muscle in them. So you have to rebuild.
Sustained.
I'm sorry, but if you want me to answer the question, please let me answer it.
I do want you to answer the question, but I don't, that's not what.
Okay.
That's
No,
not
she has not
answering
seen
the
another
question.
doctor. That's the only doctor.
Mr. Poplinsky, your client's not going to get a record if she doesn't stop that. Sandra is about to throw her hands up.
Mr. Charta, you have to understand. I mean, it is important that your words get recorded, written down, to defend yourself. It's important that we have a record. But if you just kind of rambling around and you're jumping around, it's really hard for the court reporter to do that.
I never get hurt.
You need to slow down and take a breath. Okay. Ms. Whiteley suggested that when the children were removed, the prescription that you gave from the gastroenterologist had expired.
Mm-hmm.
How do you explain that?
Because Lennox had the flu and you can't give her the medication. The medication is it's not a laxative. It just smooths her bowel movements. You can't give it to her when she's taking other antibiotics. That's the only one I had left because she had taken the ones that had, she was always taking it, but that's one that I had left from that month that she had the flu, that time she had the flu. So she just didn't take that. That's a bottle I gave to the Miss Whiteley.
Was it something that was to have been taken?
Hang on. Sandra's about to say something, Mr. Poplinsky.
Oh,
Mrs. Carty, can you please just slow down? I
Yes,
can't
I
keep
can.
up with what you're saying.
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Thank you, Sandra.
Was
The
it
bottle that when Lennox had the flu and was taking antibiotics, she couldn't take that at the same time. So that's the only bottle I had left to give to Miss Whiteley.
Was it a prescription that was to have been taken as needed or on a daily or regular basis?
As needed.
Okay. All right. Now, did you hear the worker's testimony about the condition of Lennox's teeth?
Yes, and she saw the doctor here. She sees the dentist in New Braunfels at the Children's Dental Arc.
When is the last time you took Lennox to the dentist?
Well, they go every year. So no, she'd gone to the dentist, which we spoke about her cavities, and her cavities are from a lack of nutrition because of her.
Just listen to the question.
I don't know the exact date, but
okay.
she goes once a year. Yes, sir.
Did she see the dentist in 2021 before the children were taken into care?
I believe so, if that's what the insurance reminds me about it. Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe Lennox to be lactose intolerant?
No, she's not lactose intolerant. I've told them that from day one.
Okay. Does Lennox have a regular pediatrician?
Yes, she does.
What is the name of that pediatrician?
It's at the Children's Medical Med Clinic here in town. Sometimes it's one of two doctors.
Okay. When is the last time prior to CPS grabbing your kids that you took Lennox to this doctor?
Whenever she was ill, I can't remember the exact date, but we were always there because there's the same doctor for all the kids. Leslie couldn't get the paperwork for them, so yeah.
Do you believe Lennox to have been current on her medicals and dentals leading up to coming into state care?
She was current on all her shots and all the stuff like that, yes.
Okay. Now, the children are in care. You were given a family service plan. Ms. Whiteley testified as to the things you did and the things you didn't do on that service plan. So I want to direct your attention to the service plan.
Okay,
So, okay. Are you still working?
yes,
Are you at the same position you were at when you provided a paycheck to Ms. Whiteley?
yes,
Are you full-time?
yes,
All right. Do you believe your home is suitable and appropriate to have Knox, Lennox, and Memphis returned to you?
I got this home for the kids, yes.
Okay. What is the status of your parenting classes?
I couldn't get to the last appointment to get my certificate because my truck is pooping out on me, so I couldn't get there. I can only drive like 2 miles, so I have to get to the mechanic.
Are you going to these appointments virtually or attending them in person?
In person,
How many more sessions do you believe you need before you are complete?
I think with the one.
All right. It's been testified to that a part of your OSAR recommendation was to submit to AA meetings. Have you been doing AA meetings?
I do.
Where do you go?
I go here to the 24-hour club, or I go to New Buda. I'm an alumni from my treatment center there.
How frequently have you gone?
The Buda group we have meetings every day. You can go to a meeting. I've
No,
gone.
that was not the question, Mrs. Charte.
Right, it wasn't the question. You're right. I go at least 3 times a week.
Okay. Why would you not give proof of these meetings to CPS?
I was never asked to give her proof. I can give her proof. I run the meetings like one night a week. Like I can give her proof. I never was asked to give her proof.
Okay, thank you. Are you currently using methamphetamine?
No,
Is there a reason you have not submitted yourself for the last 2 requested hair follicle tests?
yes, I don't talk to Leslie at all.
Okay. What is the reason you did not go for your last 2 hair follicle tests?
I'm not able to talk to my kids. I'm not able to talk to anyone about my whole life. Like, I mean, they left me in the complete dark. I can't even, at Christmas, I can't see my kids. My whole life is gone. They are my life. They're my life, and I can't even communicate with them. And you
I'm
act
going
like
to have
that's
to say that's
easy.
non-responsive, Mrs. Charte. He's asking you why you did not go to the drug
Because they
screen.
don't communicate with me. I don't realize, and they won't take my kid to the right doctors. I don't understand why I'm supposed to communicate with them.
Okay. Are you currently in therapy with Trisha Boone?
No, I don't go to therapy with Trisha Boone. My last appointment was with her, and then we were supposed to have court, and then court was reset, so she never reset another appointment with me.
Is it? Okay.
She never reset, but I do go see my therapist, same where my doctor is at MHMR. Her name's Alexandra.
Alexandra what?
I don't know her last name. I have her card in my wallet.
Okay. How often have you seen this individual?
Alexandra, I see her probably once. It's every bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly. When did you start seeing this individual?
I started seeing her probably right after Trisha and me quit talking, and I knew all this was about to go down, and I went ahead and signed up for it because I figured I'd need it. I don't know the exact date. It is on the back of that card though, or on my text message.
In the last month, 2 months ago?
Yeah,
3
it was
months
right
ago?
after I called. Right, I think 2 days after I talked to Trisha Boone the last time.
Okay. All right. Is there a reason that you did not specifically reach out to the kids for birthdays or Christmas or anything like that, as was testified by the department?
The one reason I didn't know, number one, I don't have any phone number for anyone to reach out. I mentioned it to both Casa and to Leslie that about my kid's birthday. I don't have a phone number to the foster parent to call her and ask her anything. I don't have an address. I've had gifts here under the tree. I mean, I don't get to see my kids. Like,
I
I can't even talk to them.
I want to understand what you said. You have gifts for them with you? Is that what you're saying to me?
Yes, I have gifts for all my kids. I gave Mia hers.
Why did you not reach out to Leslie, Miss Whiteley, and say, hey, I've got these presents I'd like to get to my...
Do not talk.
But you understand that the obligation on your service plan is to maintain contact with the department on a weekly basis, right?
I actually did not know that, but me and her have not talked for a month before. And no, I did not know that I had to talk to her. I figured she'd be calling me to tell me that.
Okay. Is there anything that you think is important for the judge to know regarding your parental rights that I have not asked you directly about?
I don't think that, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I'm heard, period. So it doesn't really matter.
Do you miss your children?
Objection, relevance.
You would object to that
You can answer.
more than anything in the world. And I can't believe that you can smile, Jennifer, at that. That's so
You just
mean.
answer the question, please, Mr.
Yes, I
Judge.
miss my children my
Okay,
whole life.
all right, thank you. What are your plans for the children moving forward should the judge not terminate your parental rights?
To live my life and watch them grow and help them and be their mother.
Where would they go? Where would Knox go to school?
Here, Big Canyon, because we moved, we have new address.
Okay. And would you continue to keep your job? Do you have daycare arrangements, or would Lennox be in school?
Lennox would be in school. Memphis would probably start school, and I would not keep the job. I'd work days, not nights.
Okay, well, who would look after Memphis? He's on what, 2, or she's only 2?
Then
look
she'd go to
after-
daycare.
I'm sorry?
Daycare?
Okay. Do you have any daycares in mind?
No, but there's a bunch close. There's one in my neighborhood.
Okay. Do you believe you've benefited from any of the services that you've taken for the department this far?
I don't believe there's anything that has been handed to me that's been healthy or healing or no, I don't. I mean, the parenting classes are awesome because the lady is awesome. She's a really cool lady.
Okay.
But from them, no, they haven't given me anything to help.
Okay. When is the last time you used methamphetamine?
When I took that medication, I can't remember the exact date. The medication that was supposed to be my ADHD medication.
The Vyvanse at the beginning of this case, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. Would you agree to do a nail scraping test?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any hair on your body that can be submitted for a hair follicle test?
I have new growth right over on the corners. I have new growth coming in right here. And so it should be able to be tested soon.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Ms. Howes, do you have any questions for Mrs. Sharte that have not already been asked and answered?
I do, Your Honor. I'll brief, Your Honor. Mrs. Sharte, so your story today is that your kids were positive for methamphetamine because of someone named Reuben you were building a fence with?
That's right.
That's the testimony I heard, Ms.
Yeah,
Howes.
that's right.
And why did you tell the other investigator that it was a boyfriend that was using methamphetamine in the home?
It was a what?
Boyfriend that was using methamphetamine in the home.
Me and Reuben got into a relationship. I had that in what I just said. Testimony.
Okay, so your audio is messing up. You'll have to repeat that question. Get a little closer to your phone, okay? And answer that question one more time.
Okay, I said Reuben and me had gotten into a relationship. It wasn't boyfriend, girlfriend, but we got into, I think I said that at the end of the testimony. I believe, but
Okay.
yeah, but he wasn't my
Is that
boyfriend.
Reuben? Is that
Yep.
Reuben Ibarra?
Yeah,
And is that the same Reuben Ibarra that you had a jail phone call with in September?
yep, he was a mistake.
Okay. And you're aware that you're not to have any contact with individuals who
I
did
don't.
criminal
anymore.
conduct. Is that
Right,
correct?
that was the phone call was to tell him that I couldn't. And I
Well,
haven't.
Did you only say that? Was there conversation singing him happy birthday?
Oh, that's a different, no, I haven't talked to him since then. And did I sing him happy birthday? Yeah, I did. Sorry.
Was there a little bit more flirtatious
It's not,
context?
I don't think it has anything to do with my children. Does that
Mrs.
mean my
Sharte,
children?
Mrs. Sharte, listen, if you want your record to be made, you're going to have to let the people ask the questions, take a breath, and then answer them.
All right,
Don't anticipate what she's asking. Just wait, take a breath.
Okay.
It's okay.
not really.
All right. And so you're aware that that would be another violation of your family plan of service to engage in contact with someone who is incarcerated, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And speaking of incarceration, you were just arrested on December 5th, 2022. Isn't that correct?
For my tags being lit out. Yes, ma'am.
And you were also given citations for driving without a license, no insurance, and having an open container. Isn't that also true?
Yes.
Did you immediately report that to Miss Whiteley when that occurred?
Don't talk to her like I've said before.
So is that a no?
It's the same thing I've said before. Yes, no.
Okay. And regarding your parenting classes, they are not completed, correct?
They're not completed. You're right.
Okay. And when did you start taking those?
I can't remember the exact date. 6 weeks ago or 7 weeks ago.
Let's see. You're indicating today that you're not currently using methamphetamine,
Nope.
but you didn't take your tests in December, correct?
Correct.
So are you aware, and I just want to make sure that
Okay.
missed tests are presumed positive?
I am aware of that.
And you know that from this case, as well as the many other cases you've had with CPS, isn't that
Do you
true?
like this? Do you like doing?
Mrs. Sharte,
I am aware. Yes.
And let's talk about that. This is not your first CPS case, isn't that true?
Objection, asked and answered, relevance.
sustained, I know, sustained. I'm aware of it.
Ms. Sharte, how many times have your children been removed from your care?
Same objection.
Let me see if she knows.
2.
You, how many times have your children been removed from your care?
3 times.
And just one last question.
Mm.
Do you think that's fair for your kids that they were exposed to methamphetamine?
No, I don't think that's fair for my kids. What kind of question is that?
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
No, thank you.
Mr. Hardy, do you have any questions for Mrs. Sharte?
No questions.
Mr. McCormick, any questions for Mrs. Sharte?
No questions.
Ms. Smith, any questions for Mrs. Sharte? You're muted.
Yes, Judge, just a few. Good afternoon, Mr. Sharte.
Hi.
Mr. Sharte, hi. As to the gentleman, Reuben Ibarra, how long had you known him when he came to fix or to work with you to fix fences?
He was a nephew of my neighbor, and we're at that house for like 7 years. So I knew of him in passing just for like the 7 years.
Okay, but not knew of him. How long did you know him personally?
Personally, probably like a year. No, like 6 months maybe, because as my separation, they would help me move stuff out.
Okay, so you knew him for about 6 months?
Yes.
And then when did you discover that he was using meth?
About the very end, when I kicked him out.
And how did you come by the conclusion then that your children tested positive for meth because of Mr. Ibarra's use?
Because there's no one else smoking meth in the house.
And when you found out that he was using meth, and then how soon did you kick him out?
That day.
And why were you still communicating with him?
Because I
when he,
made a
I'm
mistake.
sorry, let me finish.
Okay.
Why were you still communicating with him even when he had gone to jail?
Because it was a bad decision.
Okay. Now, you indicated that in answer to Mr. Poplinska's question that you believe that your children were all up to date on their medicals and dentals, etc., before they were removed. Now, how is that true when she last saw her gastroenterologist in 2020?
The gastro is a specialist. He's a specialist, not just a doctor. So her shots and everything were from her pediatrician. And then the gastro you only go to, her healing takes so long for it to get better. There's a big process of time in between. She has to wear a diaper. She's supposed to go to the bathroom like yogurt for like a whole year, and then it's supposed to progress to a different texture. So you don't have to go see him all the time. All you do is you give him records.
Why
So you
were
give him
her, I'm
records.
sorry, why were her medication not up to date?
That was because that was the old medication that I hadn't given her. She couldn't take that while she had the flu. So
And
I
my
didn't give her that
question-
bottle.
Ma'am, why was her medication not up to date?
Because she didn't have to take it all the time. I guess that's what you're asking. I don't know which
Well,
one.
her medication had expired.
Because that,
Ma'am, let me finish. Her medication was expired. Why was she still taking expired medication, and why had
she wasn't taking expired medication.
Why had you not updated her medication that she was prescribed to her?
Because she was pooping consistently, like she was supposed to, like yogurt. She didn't need to poop any thinner. It's supposed to be yogurt textured.
Did the doctor explain to you that she was suffering from encopresis?
And of what?
That she was suffering from like a fecal incontinence where she was involuntarily soiling on herself?
Yes.
Okay.
She was good.
Okay. And were you aware that her anus was enlarged because of that?
Yes. And he said that he wanted to take that medication, get her pooping like the yogurt texture for a year, get her intestines to strengthen, so it would shift back from her colon to her intestines, and then she would have to wear a diaper through that time frame. And if her sphincter wouldn't loosen up, they'd have to give it Botox. That was their next procedure.
And why, how often had she been seeing a dentist?
I think it's once or twice a year, but their insurance always sends it, but it's once or twice a year at the
Okay.
dental office.
And you
might
started
be
to
twice a year.
you started to answer to Mr. Poplinski that she had cavities because of her lack of nutrition. Could you
Correct.
please expound on that?
Yes, Lennox didn't want to eat like food, and so because of her pooping problem, so she like wouldn't eat a whole lot of different foods. She would always eat macaroni, and she would always eat chocolate. And so the doctor told me to, because I've been taking to the doctor for so long, and the doctors always tell you just don't feed them, and then once they're really hungry, they'll end up eating what's in front of them. And with Lennox, I just thought it was different, so I would just give her macaroni anyways, or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, just because.
Slow down.
I knew she was hungry. So I know her nutrition was bad. There's doctor's notes. It's just because she was not eating because her poop problem. Like she wouldn't, when she got so full of poop, she wasn't hungry. And so, but I would just give her whatever she wanted to eat, something.
Okay, you said that 3
But that
times.
hurts her
Let's
teeth. It's a
stop.
malnutrition.
Let's stop.
Miss,
Oh.
Stop.
are you aware that your daughter had 6 cavities?
No, I'm not aware of 6 cavities.
Are you aware that she had a cracked tooth in the back of her mouth
Yes, I was aware of that.
and why was that not taken care of?
Well, I didn't know that. I didn't see that it was that bad at all. It was just a
Well,
little one.
were you not aware that she cried incessantly because she was in pain?
She didn't cry like that with me. So I don't know if it got worse because I would have taken her to the doctor.
And you're aware that with the encaprices that she had impacted stool ongoing every
Yes.
day.
That's why I took her to the doctor all the time. I was always at the doctor on top of this. Yes, I knew I had to watch her like that. I mean,
Hang
yes,
on,
it's
hang on.
an ongoing issue. It's a huge deal to me.
But you testified
Huge
that,
deal to me.
but you testified that she last saw her gastroenterologist in 2020, even though you knew that she had a problem that was ongoing every single day.
Did you ask him when the next appointment was?
Mrs. Sharte, you don't get to ask the questions.
But he never set up another appointment to go see him. He told me to keep her on it and what I was maintaining, what I was doing. And that's all I was doing is food based. Food is her medicine. It's
Ms. Smith,
fiber.
let's move along. The children aren't here because of medical issues.
Yes, Judge. Now, if the court ordered you to be nail scraped or hair follicle today, what would you test positive for?
If it's a nail scrape or on my new hair, it'd be clean.
Well, a nail scrape is on your nails.
Right. I said my nail scrape or on my new hair, I'd be clean.
Okay, and understanding that a nail scrape may go back beyond 90
Right.
days, what would you be positive for?
My medication that I'm prescribed,
And what is that?
Vyvanse.
So is it your testimony that the only time methamphetamine got into your system was when you bought Vyvanse on the street, but instead they gave you methamphetamines?
Yes.
Do you think that was prudent to buy medication on the street from just anybody, knowing
No.
that you had, okay. Have you taken any medication today?
No.
Have you used any drugs today?
No.
When was the last time you used prescription medication without a prescription?
That day.
And you don't have a driver's license, correct?
I'm working on getting it right now.
So if the court returned the kids today, how would you transport them to their appointments and things of that nature?
I would find a way. I mean, I'm driving right now to work and stuff like that. I would just go, it would make me do it faster. And my roommate has a car.
But you knew you were
They
coming
could-
to court today, correct?
I did know that.
Okay. And your lease, when will your lease be up?
In a couple of months.
And is that the lease on which Mr. Rushford's name is on?
Correct. And me and
Why-
him don't have a toxic relationship.
Why is his name on the lease and not yours?
His name is on the lease because he makes more money than I do.
So what is your plan when your lease is up? If the court were to
Sign another-
return let me finish. If the court
Okay.
were to return the kids today, what is the plan for housing?
To sign another year lease.
Are you making sufficient money now to sign a lease?
I have enough with my roommate, yes.
So there would be a roommate living with you?
Until if my kids came back, then I would have the child support. So I would have that's what pays for the house. That's goes directly to the house. Child support
And-
does.
And what do you know about your roommate in as much as you're asking the court to return two little girls to your home?
The roommate would not be here if my kids came home. But
Okay.
I know, I mean, yeah. That's it.
And where do you work now?
I work at IHOP.
How much money do you make?
I make about $600 a week.
And how much is your rent?
$2,000. $1,995.
And how would you afford a $2,000 home making only $600 per week?
Because I have a roommate.
Well, you just said your roommate would not be living with you.
But she
Oh,
said
child
she would be
support.
getting child support, Ms. Smith. I heard that part.
Okay. Why haven't you paid the court-ordered child support?
My dad pays my mom and pays for pretty much everything there. He has my kids, and I don't know who else to pay child support to.
My question is, why haven't you paid your court
Um,
ordered
I-
child support?
Because my mom's doing fine. She's doing better than she was before my kids were there.
Did the court tell you or order that you could pay support or except if, if your mom was doing well?
Objection, argumentative.
I'm going to sustain that, Ms. Smith. Let's move along.
I can pay the child support. I don't know. I know how to pay my mom. I don't know.
Mrs. Sharte, don't say another word.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Mr. Baker,
No
You have a
questions,
question?
Your Honor.
anyone else have anything else for Mrs. Sharte? Mr. Peplinsky, do you have any more witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Smith, do you have any witnesses? I will be hearing from the Casas in a moment, but
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Baker, do you have any witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, let's see. Ms. Bechtel, let's start with you. You want to give the court your recommendation as to what you believe is in the best interest of the children that you represent?
My best recommendation for the children is not to give the children back to Marissa Sharte. She is unfit at this point, as you can see with her rambling, and she has no clue what's going on. She has not participated in her services. Her Options for Life parenting class was, her starting date was on 11/1/22. She has attended 3 classes. She has 5 more to go. She has attended 2 of her therapy sessions and has not attended any
Your
more.
Honor, is she testifying or just giving you a position or, I mean,
She's testifying.
okay.
As far as the it's just lack of services, it's missing visits, it's the arrest on 12/5/22. We haven't had a clean hair follicle. She has not provided a stable home for these children. And the biggest part that we have seen with Mrs. Sharte is there is lack of accountability. Mrs. Sharte blames the department and Casa for all of this. She seems to think that we are destroying her family, ripping her family apart, when she's the whole narrative in this situation. None of us would be here if it wasn't for her. And she refuses to clean up this situation she has created for herself. She constantly sends us text messages blaming us for this situation. We want to talk about the shots. Memphis came in to this situation and didn't have any of her
That's
shots
bullshit.
updated.
Oh, Mrs. Sharte, don't do that. You don't want to do that right now.
That is such a
Ms. Bechtel, can you continue, please?
Yes. None of these situations have been resolved. Like the girls testing for meth, everything. I sent Mrs. Sharte pictures of the girls enjoying their Christmas with her mother on December 31st. And I got such a horrific text message back from Mrs. Sharte on January 1st, because I showed her pictures of her children enjoying Christmas with her mother, all 4 of her children, about how horrible we were. And at this point, I don't know she has my number. We made accommodations for Mrs. Sharte to see her kids on 11/11/2022, so she could wish Memphis a happy birthday. Not because she asked for it, not because she requested it, because we made accommodations for her. For kids didn't even pay attention to her. We're bending over backwards to try and fix this situation, and she's not doing anything to do her part. The girls are doing amazing. Lennox is struggling a little bit at school, but we have got that pretty much resolved. Memphis is doing amazing. When she talks about Lennox and this whole bathroom experience, yes, Lennox has encoparesis. Mrs. Charte claims that we need to take Lennox to go see a genetic doctor. I have asked Mrs. Charte for the name of the doctor, the phone number for the doctor. I have asked her mother for the name of the doctor, for the phone number. None of them will give me any of this information. My hands are tied with this. I've asked numerous times, and all I get from Mrs. Charte is, none of you will help me.
Thank you, Ms. Bechtel. Ms. Schmidt, do you have a recommendation as to Knox?
Yes, I would recommend that Marissa Charte's parent, that her rights as a parent are terminated as well. Because of the testimony that's gone on today, because there's not been a clean hair follicle. She was arrested last month. She's missed her visits. Just the laundry list of everything of the testimony that's been heard today.
Thank you, Ms. Schmidt. Anyone wish to make a closing statement? You're muted, Mr. Poplinski. Go ahead.
Before I do so, and just so I don't have to address every ground under the sun, may I ask which grounds the department is suggest they have proved up today? Specific grounds. Is that a reasonable request? I don't got to talk about DENOPQ. I mean, what do you ask?
I think there's some that are obvious that they haven't proven. You know.
Well, then.
Q.
I-
A, B, C.
We're going to be here a long time. Can I get the department, Ms. House, to tell me which grounds you are actually seeking an order on today?
Yes. E.
Start over, Jennifer. Jennifer, start over.
Yes.
Your head is down. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I'm trying to read.
I understand.
D and E. N as in Nancy. O. I think P.
Okay. Okay, all right, I'll begin. With am I unmuted? I am unmuted.
You are.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
And just so you know, I'll reserve argument.
I assume that much.
Thank you.
Okay. Termination on D, knowingly placed or allowed the children to remain in conditions of surroundings which endangered them. The evidence that we have is that mom did not knowingly do any such thing. I understand the children tested positive immediately upon coming into care, but mom's testimony was, as soon as she found out that Mr. Ibarra was smoking meth and had access to the house, she immediately kicked him out. There was no evidence that she knowingly allowed him to do so in the presence, conditions, or surroundings of her home. Knowingly allowed this situation to remain, and as soon as she figured out he was doing it, he kicked him on. So I would say that's my argument as to D. As to E, personally engaged in conduct or placed the children with persons who engaged in conduct. what the law requires a continuing course of conduct of that, a continuing course of negligent, endangering conduct. And I do not believe that the department has shown that. I understand there's prior CPS history, but the testimony also was that the last CPS case was completed successfully. Mom did everything, addressed all the issues. Those matters were resolved. As soon as we had evidence of drug use, the children were removed, and anything mom did after the children were removed did not endanger the children because they didn't have custody and care or control of them after removal. With respect to constructive abandonment, I guess that's a judgment call. Clearly, 824 visits, I think she went to 2/3 of them. I don't think that's abandoning your kids. There's been kind of conflicting not conflicting testimony, but Ms. Whiteley herself testified.
You don't need to slow down too.
Understood. With respect to the visits that mom did not attend, the 8 out of 24 that she did not attend, I think we heard testimony of car trouble on one occasion. 2 or 3 different occasions, there was what I would consider a legitimate, viable basis for her not attending the visit. So I don't think we have clear constructive abandonment. If she's attended 2/3 of the visits, the other that weren't missed, some of them there was a legitimate excuse for. And then, of course, we know anything that took place after October, the court discontinued mom's visit. So we can't certainly hold her not accessing the children after October against her. That was the department and the court's doing. With respect to the old ground, okay, my argument is this. If the court were to take a look at the Rule 11 agreement, mom stipped the ag circumstances back in June. When this case goes ag circumstances on that, if you read the wording in the terms of the Rule 11 agreement, at that point in time, the Rule 11 says this is considered, the parties agree, this is considered an order of the court. At that point in time, after the service plan has been ordered, this is no longer an old ground court ordered services case. At that point, compliance with the service plan, if you read the Rule 11, it talks about if she continues to do these things, we'll put the case back on the accelerated timeline. So I would argue that it's simply not an old case. When mom agreed, and the party, not just mom, but the parties, well, 2 of the parties, the department and mom agreed that mom stipped to ag circumstances. It's not an old ground case anymore. I'll just kind of leave it at that. And if the court is inclined to think otherwise, there is a defense under 16100D on O. What I would argue that we proved by a preponderance that she was unable to comply with specific provisions of the court order that she made a good faith effort to comply, and the failure to do so was not attributable to any fault of her own. I guess finally I'm going to address P, and then I'm going to address best interest. P. Okay. Used and then failed to address, retreat, or continue to use. What evidence do we have that I understand the court presumed continued drug use. That's a court policy. The department presumed continued drug use when one failed to take a drug test. I think these are court presumptions, but I'm not sure that that's an accurate statement of law, that the law presumes if you do not take a drug test, you are therefore dirty. So I don't think there's any evidence that after using a controlled substance in a manner that endangered the child, that there was evidence that she did not either get the treatment she had or did and then relapsed. I would not even concede that she used in a manner that endangered the health or safety of the children. It sounds to me like the evidence was Mr. Ibarra did so, not her. What I'd like to see the court to do today is order the hair follicle and the nail scraping. We come back in 2 months to do the hold the ruling in abeyance. We go to jury trial in front of you, so there's no uncertainty there, on March 13th. By then, the results of a hair follicle or a nail scraping will come back, and then we will see what we're truly dealing with, which mom's already agreed to take, and then the court can enter its ruling at that point in time, and we can dispose of all the parents together on the week of the March 13th. I guess finally, the last thing is
Mr. Peplinski, you're assuming that she would follow the court's order this time.
well, I think she can read the writing on the wall today, Your Honor. I would hope, all I can say is she's told me repeatedly that she would, and I believe that she would. And I just ultimately, the last part of the equation is this termination in the best interest of the child or children? And I don't know that the state has proven today that it is. Particularly if the fathers in this case are able to convince you, judge or jury, in 2 months from now, to be reunified.
I don't object as improper argument. The dads in their case is completely irrelevant to the decision to be made today.
I know that, but he can make that argument if he wants to.
Thank you. Given, I don't know that we've had ample evidence of the desires of a 2-year-old, 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old at this point. I think we've heard that Knox wants to see is the kids wanting a relationship, whatever that might look like, with the mother. That much has been shown, and I don't know it's in the best interest to terminate mom, and that will never happen if we do that. So I don't believe the states met their burden with respect to the best interest of the children as well.
Thank you, Mr. Peplinski. Ms. Smith, Mr. Baker, do you wish to make a closing statement?
Briefly, Your Honor, just on behalf of Knox. Again, Your Honor, I have to concur that Knox's desires are not to have his mom's parental rights terminated. And given the situation that we have currently with Mrs. Sharte as a possessory conservator with no control over his daily care and sustenance, and with only allowed contact sporadically at best, I don't see how that's different than if we actually did terminate her rights. She would not have any control over his daily sustenance and care, and she would only have sporadic contact at best with Knox, who likely is going to remain in his grandmother's care. And so to consider that he's never going to see his mom again, I don't think is realistic. So the question is, what's the difference between the situation now and the situation if you did terminate her rights? I don't think there is any practical difference. And further, because our statutes do tell us to go with the least restrictive means of dealing with these cases, the least restrictive means would be to have Mrs. Sharte remain as a possessory conservator with no control over his daily life or care, and to have only controlled contact with Knox. So again, I think the termination at this point would just be, to a certain extent, punishment. And again, I just want to reiterate my little client's desires to maintain a relationship with his mother.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Ms. Smith? You're muted.
Yes, Judge, just briefly. Thank you. Your Honor, I guess, for the litem for the for Memphis and Lennox, the concerns I have, Your Honor, Ms. Sharte admitted that she has had 3 prior removals of her children. And so one would assume that Ms. Sharte is very well aware and, very well aware of what the department's position would be, what the concerns would be, what she can and can't do. And I would argue that she certainly would have known that moving someone into her home just shy of knowing this person 6 months and allowing him to be around her young children would have been something that could have been frowned on and possibly could have led to where we are today. Because it is her contention that this guy apparently was smoking meth around her children. She claims she didn't know anything about it. But what I gather from that is that this guy would have been left alone with her two young, vulnerable children, where he was smoking meth, causing them to, somehow ingest meth into their system. So that is particularly troubling to the children's ad litem. She's also testified about her lack of willful non-communication with the department. Even knowing what was at stake and knowing that the point person for her was Miss Whiteley. It appears that she hated the department and Miss Whiteley more than she loved her children. And that is also very concerning. This show of defiance and not putting her children's welfare first is also very concerning. The children's health, particularly Lennox's health. This child was in severe pain. She cried continuously. And within 3 days at the foster family's home, you heard the testimony, the foster parent realized that this is not just a cry of, I miss my mom, I miss my dad. This is a cry of, I'm in pain. It was missed by the mother as well as the father, even though this is not his day to day. So that is also concerning. The encopresis is concerning, the enuresis is concerning. All of these missed signals and red flags that this child was in danger. And the parents even today seems to have poo-pooed off, any of this. This child has numerous doctor's appointments, not oh, well, we'll just watch this for 2 years. Yes, you heard the testimony that this is something that's going to take a long time to fix, but there's no testimony that, oh, this is, well, you go every 2 years. So the child's health care was woefully missed. This idea that this child had cavities because of poor nutrition, that's also a concern for the ad litem. I have visited with the children in the home of the foster parents, and while the children have mentioned their dad, they've never once mentioned their mother to me. I also found that very concerning. They asked about grandmother, they asked about their siblings. They did not mention their mother. And I gave them the opportunity. Who would you like to see? Who don't you see? Who do you want to see more of? Who do you want to talk to? Tell me about, family. Never mention mom. So that was also concerning to me. I did not take it to mean that they did not love their mother, but I took that to mean that as the time was drifting, so was the memory of her drifting. So, Your Honor, if mom had come today showing one scintilla of accountability, of accepting responsibility, of just showing that she had her children's welfare instead of just, dodging and hiding and blaming everybody but herself, from the Casa to the department to just anybody she could blame, I would probably join on with Mr. Poplinski and or Mr. Baker's request, but I just simply cannot. Mr. Baker's client is a little older. He's with a grandparent. These children are much younger and they need permanency, and they need to be in a home where they're valued, where their health care is premium, where they are premium, where they will be loved more than somebody else will be hated. And I just don't think it's with the mother, unfortunately, Your Honor. So I'm also recommending that her rights be terminated.
Thank you.
Yes, very
Mr. Hardy?
briefly, Your Honor.
No, Mr. Hardy, you don't get a closing statement. Your client is not
Well,
on trial.
He does have a position on this, and that is that
I'm sure he does.
while
Did he
this is
file
not
a-
while
did
this
he
is not his
file a
day.
Did he
No,
file
he
a
didn't.
counter petition?
No, he didn't.
He has no say. Ms. Howes?
Your Honor, Ms. Asharte asked me if I enjoyed this, and the answer is no. I wish that I didn't have a job. I wish that none of these kids had to be removed from their home, but CPS exists. The department exists because of people like Ms. Asharte, because she cannot adequately care for her children, because she has not, in the 3 times that they've been removed, been able to get it together. She has been given more opportunities than probably any parent we've seen in this courtroom to get her act together. And she continues to put her needs above their own. And Ms. Smith said it absolutely right. She hates the department and Casa and everyone more than she seems to love her children. She knows by her experience what she needs to do. And she willfully chose to tell CPS what terrible people they were, that this was their fault, that she's in this situation because of them, hasn't taken accountability once, not even today. To suggest that this random fence builder smoked methamphetamine in front of her kids once and that's why they're positive. But please ignore the fact that I have submitted dirty hair follicles throughout this entire test or this entire case is absolutely ridiculous. If it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And Ms. Asharte is a meth user here. And is the reason her kids have been positive for meth. How do we know that? Well, we have
You don't.
We have
Mrs. Sharte, it's not.
We have the test that she did take. We have all the tests that she missed, and we have her incredibly erratic behavior that we've seen today. She's been on the camera, she's been off the camera, she's been sideways, she's been upside down. She's taking her wig off, holding up collages, braiding her hair. It is the most random collection of behavior that I've seen for someone who is allegedly so desperate to get their children back, but she can't even pick up the phone. What's in the best interest of the children, absolutely, is terminating her parental rights. Sometimes what's in their best interest doesn't always necessarily align with what their desires are. And unfortunately, that seems to be the case today. It is sad to me that the children love their mother so much more than she loves them. You can tell they love her. I have no doubt that they do. That's their mother. Even if she does have a drug addiction, hasn't put the work in to get them back, they're still going to love her. I don't blame them. But we have to look out for what is in their best interest. And what has happened when we've tried before to give mom PC and give someone else PMC? Well, they ended up back in her home, and now we're here again. Going on years and years and years. And these children should not be subjected to this kind of behavior. And they have, and she's demonstrated that she can't keep her kids out of the system. And she alleges that she was so upset by this guy that allegedly used meth in her home, but then she's on a jail phone call with him, wishing him happy birthday. These things just don't add up. We have seen the behavior time and time again, including today. There are multiple grounds and reasons to terminate her parental rights. A plethora of reasons why terminating her parental rights is in the best interest of every one of these children. She has, being a parent is a gift. It is not a right. She has given up any right to have any say in anything about these children at any point. We need to protect them. That's why we're here. That's what Casa does, looks out for their best interest. We need to terminate her so that they have a chance at a better future than they have if she is still around. And that's what the department is asking for.
Thank you. Many of you are assuming that what Ms. Sharte has testified to today has been truthful. I don't find her testimony likely to be truthful at all. On the various excuses and stories that she's had for testing positive and for her children testing positive. So I don't know what story to believe. I would imagine that her failure to be truthful to the court is an attempt to make herself look better. And this being her fourth CPS case is very telling. I remember Mrs. Charte from many years ago, and she's not an old lady. She's a young woman, but she has physically, her appearance has aged over the years due to methamphetamine use. It's a typical appearance that uses methamphetamines on a regular basis. And if she's shaking her head, no. But, you know, she had the opportunity to show me she wasn't using meth, but she didn't do it. Mr. Piplinski says that she had made a good faith effort to complete her services by having all these excuses, but you have to have those excuses to find that she did have a good faith effort, and I'm not finding that. And I don't take any pleasure in terminating parental rights. I wanted you to be successful, Mrs. Charte, because I didn't want your family to be back in my court. But there's a point at which your children come first, before you, before their fathers, anyone else. And it's time to put them first. And so I am going to terminate your parental rights under 161.001 B1 D as in Delta, E as in Echo, O as in Oscar, and P as in Papa, and 2. It's in the best interest of all 3 children that your parental rights be terminated. The department will continue as temporary managing conservators, and we'll see what a jury does as to the fathers. Mr. Piplinski, you don't have a right to de novo the decision, but you do have a right to appeal the decision. So you visit with your client about that. We're coming March the 13th for the father's trials on the merits. Mr. Hardy, if you get an agreement from everyone to make changes to the plans of service, that's fine. You don't have to have a hearing for that. But I did instruct you all before we broke for lunch that you are to exchange witness lists. You are to exchange exhibits that have been previously marked and stipulated to, so we're not standing in front of a jury for things that are agreed to. We're not wasting their time. And motions in limine, get those prepared. And I want you all to have those to me by the 7th of March. And I can look at your motions in limine, and we could have a little Zoom meeting to go over those at that point in time if we need to discuss them. We'll continue placement of Knox with his grandmother, and Memphis and Lennox with Ms. Heineman. Thank you, Ms. Heineman, for providing care for those children. Casa, and of course, will remain on the case. The attorneys for the fathers, Ms. Smith and Mr. Baker, will